tools, Defile, Doomsayer. He's got the Tainted Zealot as well, which can couple with some of those early game removal spells to deal with Pirate Warrior. Mortal Coil, Defile can make for some interesting clears. But we're actually going to hop into this game underway. This is game number 2. And Orange took the first game. And Pavel now trying to take out the Priest here with his Warlock.
Yeah, and this is a difficult matchup. Warlock does have a lot of options to get aggressive, and it does have Blood Reaver Gul'dan for a big reload towards the end. But one of the problems this deck struggles with is its inability to stabilize life total. If Orange finds himself in a position landing a high-value Shadow Reaper Anduin, he can really run away with the clock that he puts on Pavel at that point. So Pavel has to find a way to get aggressive in this matchup and really put Orange on a threat check.
Yeah, but towards the end of the game, if Blood Reaver Gul'dan is able to come out, it will outpace the Shadow Reaper Anduin in most situations. So it is a sort of a race to those Death Knight cards. Taking scope of this matchup as a whole, Orange, his first match win was his Warrior, his Pirate Warrior against the Shaman. So Orange starts it off going into an unfavorable matchup and taking the win. Now the matchup is still pretty close, I'd say, but it's definitely Shaman favored. So a good first win for Orange puts him in a pretty good spot, considering that's the deck that I would say that Orange would have the most trouble winning with against Pavel's lineup is that Pirate Warrior. So he's looking like he's got a little bit of advantage moving forward. But this game in particular is going to tell us a lot.
Yeah, I am a bit concerned with Orange's Paladin as well. With Corpse Taker, you're more focused on defeating other decks that are trying to fight for board as well. It's a decent card fighting for board, pretty poor in slower matchups. So that one could be troublesome as well. And Orange going with the Shadow Word Horror here, it's not so much as to value the 3/3, so much as it is to value the pressure that he gets from this. If he simply concedes this pressure, Pavel's free to do as he wants in this matchup. And so for Orange, Shadow Word Horror is not a particularly strong card in the matchup anyway. Just take the 3 damage, maybe get 3 more here, maybe even get a spell out of it somewhere down there.
Yeah, we talked about the key cards for Priest here.
That's one of them.
He's got a couple of them in his hand already. He's got Rosalind Unchained plus Shadow Reaper Anduin. Those are the main 2. Kazakus is sort of a supporting actor in the series here for Kazakus Priest.
That is a lot of 8/8s on board for Pavel. This is one of the stronger starts when Orange doesn't have a Shadow Word Death as well, or isn't able to cleanly answer the board state. This can be very problematic from a damage perspective. Orange, he does have the Shadow Reaper Anduin, but he's got to figure out a way to get this under control. So he's probably set into a defensive mode for the next couple of turns here, and once he lands that Shadow Reaper Anduin, looking to really push the pedal at that point. But still a lot of gas in Pavel's hand, both Abyssal Enforcers and Blood Reaver Gul'dan ready.
Yeah, nice to be able to get those 5+ attack minions out before Shadow Reaper Anduin is even able to come down onto the board. So looking pretty grim. Orange could trade over one of these 8/8s. Does have the free hero power, so that's going to allow him to buffer his life total just a little bit. Interesting to see the play here. He could trade into one of the 8/8s, then go for a Doomsayer just to sort of heal for 7. That's definitely an option. My question here is whether or not he uses like Acolyte of Pain to maybe try and absorb another shot. Because I think Pavel's in a situation where he would rather protect his 8/8 than deny draws from Orange. I don't think there's a situation where he lets this Doomsayer go off. So
he's in the business of pushing damage.
Whoa, okay. I like it.
It's an interesting play. I'm curious if Pavel could have simply delayed this damage, though. Using Siphon Soul in this spot means that he doesn't get another minion down. He could have sacrificed that 8 damage to get Twilight Drake on board. He could have coined out the Abyssal Enforcer as well. Granted, that puts his Mountain Giant into Dragonfire Potion range, but this play was very aggressive from Pavel, and I'm not quite sure this pays off. He doesn't really have the pressure anymore to mount a strong offense.
Could be true.
Doomsayer did a fantastic job. Just stunted the growth from
It really did.
from Pavel.
Basically bought himself a turn, and now going into Shadow Reaper Anduin, this is the board you want to do it with.
Oh yeah,
2 5 attack minions.
This is a major swing to the game. 5 extra armor for Orange, and the 2 damage, and he's got Holy Smite plus Shadow Visions plus Defile. The cheap spells really start to compound this issue. This is where Pavel can find himself in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, Orange is actually just getting close to lethal damage. He's actually almost there if he can get a cheap spell to play with Shadow Visions, and if Pavel plays a minion that he can steal with Potion of Madness, which doesn't look like it's going to happen. There's only There's a few of them in the deck. Mistress of Mixtures, Voidwalker, Tainted Zealot, Doomsayer if you want to be.
Oh my.
Whoa.
That is heaps of damage. And Orange knows that he's not at threat at this point either. Pavel doesn't have burst damage in his deck to really get the game done. It's done by securing a board presence. Because Orange has a comfortable life lead, he's free to just chain this damage together.
Silence, perhaps?
Not the silence he's looking for.
No, but the 0 mana Silence, he does have a copy of it in his deck. So if he finds that, he's sort of killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He's resetting that hero power, and he can also take out the Twilight Drake. Doesn't find it, though. Greater Healing Potion instead, which is could be useful. It's going to help him to be able to stabilize and be able to keep that sort of machine gun hero power working. And, hey, why not?
Oh.
Whoa.
Anything that's fodder at this point is great
Yes.
for Orange. That could be quite literally a 1-cost spell that actually just does nothing. And he'd be totally fine with that. Not that will be getting played this game.
No, but it's just funny. Blood River Gul'dan picked up from the Mind Vision. Also gets a Devour Mind from the Lyra proc there.
So up to 11, and this is where the Greater Healing Potion take really makes a difference here as well. He negates this entire attack with the 1 turn. He gets in the extra damage from the hero power as well. And that's just another one to add to that. Now, Pavel is going into Blood Reaver Gul'dan.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if Orange has the damage over 2 turns to simply end the game.
Orange doesn't quite have enough cards that are playable in order for him to win the game here with the hero power, but
It's looking like 8 damage.
8 damage, unless Devour Mind picks up 3 1-cost minions.
I was looking at the Cabal Shadow Priest plus Purify to start things if you just really wanted to go for a damage chain, but with the double Greater Healing Potion in hand, I just don't think he has much of a reason to risk that.
Yeah, no 1-cost minions picked up for him. He was hoping for those, like Voidwalkers would have probably been the best case scenario there, but Greater Healing Potion, he's happy to take that.
And then next turn, he's got minimum 8 points of damage with the Tainted Zealot, Purify, Defile. And he can make that 10 by adding a 4-cost in there as well. And so that's lethal damage.
Yes, it is.
Raza makes this combination just so powerful.
Yeah, it is a 1-up deck, though. So a lot of times we see one piece of that puzzle, but not multiple pieces. And if you can get both of them, if you can get Raza on 5, Shadow Reaper Anduin on 8, you're going to have a hard time losing in a lot of matchups unless you've fallen so far behind. So, this deck, it packs some power. It's one of the reasons why it has one of the highest win rates in this tournament, as well as looking at the Chinese Summer Championship that's been taking place over the past couple weeks. It's one of the most represented decks, as well as one of the highest win rate decks. So I think Highlander Priest is definitely here to stay. And for Orange, it's going to get him a 2-0 lead in the series over Pavel. I wonder if Orange, with this, if he beats Pavel, would become the first seed because his tiebreaks are overcome. It's probably unlikely. Usually the 6-0 player is almost guaranteed to have the first seed, but if they both took their losses late and Orange's opponents did better throughout the rest of their runs after he defeated them, then it could be the case.
Yeah, it's somewhat unlikely, but that is a big win. Now, a 2-0 lead, even if all 3 of his next matchups are at a disadvantage, Orange is still a favorite to take the series. He has 3 tries with his Murloc, Corpse Taker, Paladin to win this one.
And we'll see. You talked about it. You were worried about this Paladin, and Pavel's decks look like they are equipped to deal with it pretty well.
They're not really fighting for the board that much. The one deck that is Shaman, and that's the deck that doesn't really suffer as much against Corpse Taker as some of the other aggressive builds.
Yeah, we'll see if Orange can close out the series in a few moments. Don't go anywhere. More Pavel coming up right in a moment.
Greetings! This is the 2017 Hearthstone Summer Championship! Take a seat at the table. Join our worthy hosts, TJ and Admirable.
Thanks for that lovely introduction, Mr. Innkeeper, and welcome back, everybody, to the Europe Summer Playoffs. We're about to jump into game number 3 between Orange and Pavel. These two guys are the front runners currently coming into the last Swiss round, and both these guys are pretty likely to move on. Pavel is guaranteed into the top 8, but this could be the determination of the number 1 seed moving out of the Swiss rounds.
And that can be a big deal. Oftentimes the 8th seed just squeaks in there.
Yeah.
You know, maybe their lineup wasn't quite as prepared. Maybe their lineup wasn't right for the tournament. Maybe you're just favorable against it. The seeding can matter, but ultimately it is a tad random in that same sake as well. The big one for me is that Pavel has an opportunity to have a 7-0 finish in this one. He didn't compete in spring, but when he was in winter, he won the whole thing.
Yes, he did. And we're going to move into it now. The story moving into what could be the final game or the final 2 or 3 games of this series, as Orange has to fight up against Pavel's whole lineup with his Murloc Paladin. But it seems like Pavel is reasonably well equipped to deal with it. So interested to see how this is going to play out. Orange has some interesting techs in this Paladin. Stormwatcher, as you mentioned earlier. He's got the Crazed Alchemist to fight against Doomsayers. And also the Admirable tech. Crazed Alchemist to flip your Spike Ridge Steed target to push damage.
I've done that quite a few times.
Yeah.
That was near the beginning of the Ungoro meta that I was landing that one. But if you're bringing an aggressive lineup, Paladin, I think, is one of the classes where Crazed Alchemist makes the most sense. You need your early Murlocs to not fall to Doomsayer. And so when you see Doomsayer, being able to flip that and then still land a Gentle Megasaur or a Murloc War Leader is a very big deal, especially considering the fact that Orange has come equipped with Corpse Taker. This is a card that's meant to fight better against somewhat aggressive decks than it is against, say, Warlock, for instance. It's not a fantastic performer versus Warlock, and so missing that 4-drop sometimes as your Corpse Taker instead of a Blessing of Kings or what have you, that can cost you as well. So the Crazed Alchemist tech makes perfect sense in here.
Yeah, also, Orange was saying before the playoffs happened that he felt like he was super well prepared. And I think that Orange, because of the environment that he plays in, always at the top level, always in communication with top-level players, he knew that Control Mage would be a popular choice by a lot of players. And so Crazed Alchemist is almost the only way for Murloc Paladin to protect their board against like Frost Nova Doomsayer or Blizzard Doomsayer. So definitely a tech choice that is pretty targeted at that very occurrence.
Yeah, and Finja here is a major deal. Pavel is now in serious trouble when he sees this Finja. Mountain Giant is probably the best threat that he could play into this. But there is still a threat of this Finja getting a little bit out of hand. If Orange gets a major activation from this, you could be looking at the end of the game.
Yeah, Crazed Alchemist also with persistent buffs can give Murlocs permanent stats with Murloc War Leader. It's a little bit weird at times because it sort of like flips the base stats, but then the buff still occurs.
Yeah.
So if you use Crazed Alchemist on say Finja in this case, you gain additional attack and it would gain additional permanent health from the swap. So even if Murloc War Leader was killed off the board, Finja wouldn't be at 4-2. It would have the extra permanent stats. So Orange here deciding on how he exactly wants to deal with this Mountain Giant. It's a possibility of him just ignoring it. Corpse Taker looked like he was thinking about it, still has the opportunity, but I think he wants to evaluate with this Hydrologist, see if he can pick up a secret that's going to change his mind, and then play the Corpse Taker on the back of that. This is a pretty good moment for it. It's going to gain all of those stats since he does have every single one of them still in his deck.
Yeah, playing the Righteous Protector alongside the Corpse Taker would give him a better defense against the Mountain Giant in total, but he has to worry about Defile. If Defile is there and he plays that Righteous Protector, he would almost certainly lose his entire board at that stage. So accounting for that card, I think, was pretty crucial to Orange's turn here. That's why he goes with the Hydrologist instead. But this gets punished by Siphon Soul on the other side of things. So there's pros and there's cons to a play like that. This way, at least, he's still left with board presence.
And he goes with the trade over the Murloc War Leader. Really smart in that case. Bone Mare he's got two options. He can bring up the Finja and trade over the Mountain Giant, his Finja would die, but he would still pull the Murlocs. Or he can hold on to this Finja and Bone Mare the Hydrologist, which would also just trade over it, but it would leave him with a more powerful minion remaining. He just wouldn't have the extra Murlocs. So it depends what he wants. If he wants to be a little bit more conservative on the board, then he would do Hydrologist, but he wants as many Murlocs as he can get. If he pulls out a War Leader, this could be a pretty big deal.
Well, both his War Leaders are gone at this point.
Oh yeah, both War Leaders are gone, you're right.
And that was really another one of the problems with Orange's board state in this one. He had to use his War Leaders as his initial push. That left Finja with no potential to buff the board. And when that potential's gone, a lot of that card's power is limited. But Tyrion drawn right into the Abyssal Enforcer, but Pavel has Spellbreaker waiting. Now he's dangerously low on life, but I feel like this Spellbreaker is a big turning point.
He also has Twilight Drake to be able to throw down. But actually,
he's got the ooze.
His ooze. Yeah, this is smart. Spellbreaker's always going to find targets.
Oh, yeah.
Spike Ridge Steed can be devastating. And if you can kill off the Tyrion and the Ashbringer and gain health, I think this is much better than developing a Twilight Drake and a Spellbreaker in that instance.
I wasn't even looking at that ooze.
Orange is going to be able to fight back a little bit, but he is running very low on resources. And Pavel is still pretty healthy.
That's a tough call. I think I would go with Redemption here. Most of the time, you have 2 Divine Shield minions with Taunt in play. That's about as good as it gets with a Redemption target. You know, holding that Redemption, does Orange ever look at that spot and wonder, can he hold the Tyrion for a turn? Should he ever hold the Tyrion for a turn in that spot?
That's a tough one.
If there's no Spellbreaker, if there's no ooze,
Look at
it's
his
a
other,
massive payoff.
Look at his other plays in that moment, though. He plays Righteous Protector. He does this play, but a turn sooner. I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know. Maybe there's some merit to it. That's tough.
Gul'dan agrees.
He does. He always agrees. He's a very agreeable guy.
And is Pavel going to play both Spellbreaker or both Doomsayers here? Wow.
Just wants to reset the board.
Well, this buys him a lot of life. But now he has no interaction with the board directly, but Orange's turn is quite weak in terms of development. We're adding 5 total power to the board on 10 mana turns. He's losing his Rallying Blade.
And he's out of cards.
Pavel's hand is not super well equipped to actually fight against this, though. He's just got minions. Well, that'll help.
That will also help.
That'll also help.
That'll help quite a bit more.
Yeah, now the Wicker Flame Burnt Bristle does come back in this spot. But Orange needs a big draw, and he needs it right here.
Is that a Bone Mare?
If
I saw 5/5.
If he grabbed it that quick, I'm going to guess it's Bone Mare.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm curious if this should be a trade with the Wicker Flame or just push the damage at this stage. Only Siphon Soul and Spellbreaker would outright punish Orange.
I'm liking a
For a
face
straight
attack
attack.
here.
I
I think with no cards left, I think you got to take the risk.
I agree. I think at this stage you have another Rallying Blade in the deck. You have a Blessing of Kings. You have Sunkeeper Tarim. You still have a Stormwatcher. I know it seems kind of awkward, but that would be a fairly strong draw at this point.
What would Uther do?
That's what he'd do, Arthas.
You hit him in the face. I definitely like the attack. It has the possibility of being punished, but at the moment, Orange just doesn't have the resources to fight a board battle like that.
Your magic shall not.
That Voidwalker is a hefty draw as well. The Despicable Dreadlord takes out the 1/1, which means that there's no trade directly over the Voidwalker, so this Bone Mare damage is going to get missed.
Pavel may have turned the corner here unless Orange picks up something really good, and that's the worst draw on the deck.
The light dims.
It's got to be.
Yeah, that's the worst one, period.
Murloc, the second Murloc Tidecaller, maybe?
It's pretty equal in that stage. And that lets Pavel unlock an 8-mana Mountain Giant. Still a lot of trade duty to do here.
But he looks like he's pretty home free. I think Orange needs a weapon.
Yeah, weapon would be the way out of this. Not Corpse Taker. It would be second Rallying Blade connecting with 2 face attacks.
I don't think this Corpse Taker even has Divine Shield anymore.
Winter is here.
It does not. Both Righteous Protectors, Wicker Flame, and Tyrion, those are gone. Doesn't even provide him with that added level protection. Would have only done protected from 1 damage, basically.
Faceless Shambler locks it up. There's no outs left in Orange's deck that get him out of this situation. Wow, what a turnaround.
The battle is over.
Pavel on the verge of a potential comeback with that Warlock win. It was looking shaky at times. Orange had a bunch of big pushes, but a couple key draws where Pavel needed them. And you can just see how this deck functions when it starts to come back in a game. It just drops bomb after bomb after bomb. And Pavel's made some interesting choices with his list that I think have definitely worked in his favor. He's very threat dense and removal light. He doesn't have Twisting Nethers, for instance, to remove those big board positions. But every single turn, past like turn 4, he has the potential to drop just a big minion. And with Despicable Dreadlord and Abyssal Enforcer, those big minions can oftentimes help clear up board states of more aggressive decks that don't usually have big threats themselves. So definitely liking Pavel's choice here, but he's still got a lot of work to do if he wants to come back in this series.
The 2 major decks I've seen that are operating with this particular Warlock are the ones that run Medivh with Twisting Nether, or they run the Mountain Giants. The Mountain Giant, I think, is better suited for this tournament because you're going to be banning Jade Druid so very often. So I like the Mountain Giant call here. Forego the fancy swing plays with Medivh into Twisting Nether. Just get a big guy online and start punching away.
All right, well, Pavel's going to queue up the token Shaman here, and this is an interesting matchup. I would say that it's Shaman favored just because both of these decks live and die by their early board states, and Shaman usually does a better job at fighting for those board states. But Orange does have some tools that are going to help him in the matchup specifically, and I think Crazed Alchemist is one of them. Being able to just flip a Flame Tongue Totem, or being able to flip a Mana-Tide Totem, or even a Stoneclaw Totem in some cases, can be a pretty huge deal if it lets you make favorable trades. So
yeah, we talked about the importance of killing a Doomsayer, but when you look at this Shaman matchup, for instance, it is very important to be able to eliminate Flame Tongue Totem. That's one of the reasons that Corpse Taker doesn't do super well against this deck, is because Flame Tongue Totem allows you to trade up the curve so very effectively. So when Orange is faced with a turn like this, he doesn't want to just use the Crazed Alchemist right away. He wants to wait for the right turn. He's not under a ton of pressure. He has Corpse Taker in hand. He can simply play this Rallying Blade, try to get Finja online, and get some work done with that.
a little bit of a cute play last turn by Pavel. For those who are unaware, when you summon patches from your deck, it's always on the far right. So some good sequencing from Pavel to attack with the totem first, summon the Bloodsoul Corsair to the left of the Flame Tongue Totem, and then make the trade with the patches. Those are things that you learn pretty quickly when you start playing around with the Token Shaman deck, but things that are often forgotten. So I'd like to see just the good token play.
And with 2 evolves here, Pavel has some very strong turns coming up. He's got Saronite Chain Gang for the first evolve, a choice that's been teched in by a lot of players. I'm not particularly a fan of it, but here it's paying in spades. Then he follows up with Doppelgangster Evolve, and there's very little in Orange's deck that strongly interacts with that.
Yeah. When Saronite Chain Gang is good, it's really good, but every other time it's bad. It's in the deck almost specifically to couple with Evolve.
Wow.
That's actually, the Public Defender does a ton of work here.
It gets a bit punished by
The Crazed Alchemist.
the Crazed Alchemist here.
Otherwise, it would be good.
Orange, though, I mean, he has an opportunity to still get a big swing turn. Even in the face of the 4-7 and the 6-5, he's coming away with a lot of Murlocs. So this is really going to boil down to what Pavel's next evolve looks like. If it's very strong, Orange is just about out of the game.
And he's going to get 5 6-drops.
It's a lot of 6-drops.
That's a lot of stats.
How many Cairns?
2 Cairns. And a wind-up Burgly bot.
What would Uther do?
It's about, on average, 50 stats. Combined health and attack.
Yep.
Finja pulling out Murlocs. I don't know, combined 10 stats, 15 stats. That's only 8. and actually just going to try and chip away this board instead of going with the War Leader. Playing War Leader on the turn that you're attacking with your Murlocs is usually better unless you are ahead on the board. And actually fight for the board position here instead. I don't mind this at all.
Yeah, this plays around Sunkeeper Tarim very well. And Pavel made that decision very quickly, which tells me that he was thinking about that particular style of draw right away. If I draw something to affect the board position, would I rather play around Sunkeeper Tarim and then look for the Doppelgangster afterwards?
And the answer is 100% yes.
Yeah,
in
this
most
leaves
cases.
Orange stranded with nothing.
Yeah, and I think
Is here.
Pavel's home free in this matchup. Orange is stuck with Spike-Ridge Steeds in hand and not a real way to use them. And even if he does use it, he's very susceptible to devolve. Now, Pavel doesn't have it, but Orange doesn't know that, and Pavel has been holding on to cards for quite some time.
Yeah, this is a massive game over spot. The Corpse Taker, the lifesteal here is just borderline irrelevant.
Yeah.
And Pavel could continue to take it slow in this spot. He says,
like it.
Jade Lightning's good enough.
He may be doing a test for the Sunkeeper Terran. That's a possibility. Because again, he doesn't want to have his board swung back. He's happy with his board position. This is enough.
Yeah, this represents a 2-turn lethal exactly.
And Orange needs Righteous Protector. Consecration clears out some things, but
That's over. I mean, he saves 4 points of damage this way, but the writing is on the wall at this point. Orange is not getting board presence for the rest of this game. And Pavel's held on to the Doppelgangster ball. He probably could have closed this game out a lot sooner, but he played around all of the potential counterplay from Orange by sequencing it this way.
might as well just throw it in there.
Wants the taunt as well. Oh, look at that. Steeds even cost 2 more.
The battle is over.
Wow. Very dominant game number 2, and you can see why the board presence is such an important factor in that matchup. Landing the Starnet Chain Gang as one of his tech cards paid massively in this one.
Yeah, it's, man, I said early on, the matchup is both classes live and die by that early board state, and usually Token Shaman has the edge. Sometimes Paladins Murloc Paladins can eke it out, but he just had all the tools he needed early on. Played around everything that he could possibly play around also. Which I think was a big deal towards that mid stage of that game.
Yeah, I mean, if Orange had had a perfect hand, it still wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, pretty nicely done. But game number 5 is going to be coming up in a few moments. Will Pavel complete the reverse sweep over Orange? We'll find out in just a few moments. Don't go anywhere, guys. More Europe Summer Playoffs right after this.
From as far south as Johannesburg to as far north as Oslo. From Portugal to Poland and Brussels to Budapest. 24 different countries are hosting taverns for this, the first playoff of the summer season. Nudge yourself closer to the fire, my friends. The Europe Summer Playoffs march on.
Welcome back, everybody. We're moments away from jumping into a huge Game 5 between Pavel and Orange. And Pavel was down 2-0 going into game number 3. And I feel like we've been in this situation before, Admirable.
Yeah, I'm reminded of the World Championships, where twice Pavel was down 0-3 against Druid. And both times was able to turn the series around and take it 4-3 in his march to the title of world champion.
Yeah.
And it just seems like every single time he's in a conquest situation where he's down 2 or 3 games, it's like his game plan has come together. He's like, this is the deck that I meant to beat, and now I'm going to beat it.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. At the beginning of this year, after Pavel's run through the World Championship when he was playing in events, people would say, oh, Pavel's down 0-2. He's going to take the series. But, I mean, it seems to be, in Conquest, sometimes strategies revolve around that type of style. Conquest is a format where the strategy of targeting a specific deck or a very specific type of deck is viable because every deck has to win. So if you can reduce the chances of one deck by a lot of times you can target that deck and reverse sweep one specific one. In this case, it's Murloc Paladin for Orange. And while I don't think Pavel was specifically trying to target Murloc Paladin, it just so happens that his decks do pretty well against it.
Yeah, and even if you are targeting a specific deck, you don't want to go down 0-2. Even when you're in unfavorable matchups,
Yeah.
you can still win them. The idea is just to mitigate one so heavily that it struggles
Yeah.
to pick one up.
And a lot of times, other players will have similar lineups where they're trying to target one thing. So you have that splash effect where you target a deck and then a lot of times your lineup just ends up being good against the others. Decks in that lineup because of that splash effect. So let's get into it though. Game number 5, the winner of this will, if Orange wins, he guarantees himself a spot. If Pavel wins, he guarantees himself the first seed in that top 8.
6-0, the lone undefeated player. Last time Pavel was at a playoff, he won the whole thing.
That's right.
He's getting pretty darn close to doing
The
it
light
again.
dims.
And a reasonable start from Orange, but Pavel has tools that are necessary for winning this matchup.
And that's a big one. This is the Highlander Priest. There's only one copy of these cards in here. So
Yes.
drawing this Doomsayer early on and Orange not having the Crazed Alchemist for tech is a big detriment. Pavel has a substantial lead where card economy is concerned. Orange has a minor reload in this spot, but Pavel's going to come out swinging. He's got the Raza. He's got the Ooze if a weapon gets drawn. He's got Greater Healing Potion if he needs the extra life. And the Prophet Velen here not really looking like it's going to suit its ultimate purpose, which is delivering lots of from-hand bursts. But it is a 7-7. And in this matchup, just having a big thing on board allows him to keep combat in his favor.
Yeah, and with Raza, the turn he plays Prophet Velen, he'll be able to hero power no matter what, whether that's a hero power for 4, just to heal himself or a minion back up, or if he's played Shadow Reaper Anduin by that point, a damage for 4. So, and he actually can double dip on it too. You can heal for 2, then Prophet Velen, then heal for 4. So it could be like a big swing. You're building a big threat, and you're also gaining that life or dealing that damage.
It does look like Orange is going to be able to land a Spike Ridge Steed in the next turn, though.
Oh.
Uh-oh. Wow, all of these options are good right now. Pavel has to think about Spike Ridge Steed, though. That's got to be the one that's in the forefront of his mind. But it looks like in the face of a Spike Ridge Steed, he can actually...
Oh, this is a full clear, yeah, with the Spirit Lash. He's going to be able to trade over and then put his Raza into the remaining minion. So actually, Orange is not going to be able to get off a Spike Ridge Steed.
That's right. Potion of Madness was a great spot from Pavel just to use the Spirit Lash right away.
I was looking at Shadowward Horror and Silence as the 2 options because we saw the Spike Ridge Steed. But Pavel's like, I'm just not going to even let him have that opportunity. Very well done.
This game is about to go very fast downhill for Orange. Cabal's Shadow Priest is online to once again shut off the threat potential. And then just, again, playing Prophet Velen. It's just a 7-7.
Yeah, play that War Golem.
Good card.
What would Uther do?
And you can see taking the redemption here, trying to just desperately have a minion left on board. This will get him one, but he's losing too much of a position. And Pavel draws, wow, the Cabal Song Stealer.
Let me change your mind.
It's looking good. It's looking real good. I think Orange is going to play this Spikered Steed, trade over the Hydrologist, then Pavel's going to run away with the board. That might change things. Finja will guarantee him a Spikered Steed, and if there's a minion left on board, which there will be, he can guarantee Murloc's pulled out.
Yeah, Finja is actually a pretty huge draw here for Orange.
What would Uther
The
do?
Spikered Steed was looking like a desperation play in this spot, but Finja now represents the ability to grab some board control. The problem that Orange is going to face is that it may be too late at this stage. Pavel's still at 30. He's got initiative, and it doesn't look like he's going to lose that.
I think Velen's coming down.
It just looks so much better than Kazakus.
Yeah. Kazakus, I don't even think he knows what he wants right now.
I wonder.
He doesn't really have, he might have a pretty solid read on what's in Orange's hand, considering he's been playing off the top of his deck. Spikered Steed, expensive minion, very likely. He can rule out Bone Mare because that would have come down in the previous turn on the 1/1 Murloc that was left over. So I think he's thinking about how best to play in this situation.
And maybe Taram's coming to mind. And that's potentially pushing him off the idea of
Yeah.
Prophet Velen. But I like risking it. It's not a card that's essential to win this matchup, but board presence is.
That's a mighty fine board presence. No matter what Orange does here, Cabal Song Stealer.
I think I like going for the Gentle Megasaur play here.
He'll get the Adapt on 4 Murlocs. Because he'll pull 2 from his deck, he can Hero Power. So the Finja Hero Power plus the 2 Murlocs that are pulled. That could be the biggest swing potential.
Double War Leader there would have been potentially big. Double War Leader would have allowed
Put your
Orange
faith
to
in the light.
consider Gentle Megasaur and look for Wind Fury to follow that up. Oh my.
Oh, 10 damage Dragonfire Potion. I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
I think Cabal Song Stealer is going to do the job just fine. And keep in mind, this Hero Power is free, and it also heals for 4.
This is just shredding Orange's board. Just massive value picked up from board presence.
You can kill Prophet Velen, Spikered Steed, and then tank the 7 with the Rallying Blade.
I'm not sure Consecration's getting any better than this spot right here. If Pavel's hand is quite dead, I think Orange could still get back into this one.
Yeah,
the problem I'm looking at is the Kazakhs plus the Dragonfire Potion. It means it's so difficult for him to get board presence. He's hoping that Pavel's hand is somewhere in the neighborhood of like Shadow Word Death, Greater Healing Potion, a Wild Pyromancer, just cards that are not super effective in this moment.
Yeah, not Kazakus, which is going to be able to generate a ton of resources. He's looking for Resurrect here because he's had a lot of beefy minions die this game.
He just went straight for the 10.
Why not? He's going into 10 mana next turn. Let's see what that potion is. I believe was it summon an 8/8 and deal damage? Summon an 8/8 and gain health? I don't know.
Might have been +6 health to the
We'll see.
minions.
Yeah, that was the far right choice.
Yep.
I didn't even see the first choice because he took it in a split second and I wasn't paying attention. It's too fast. It's summon an 8/8 and do something. Add 3 demons to your hand. He just wants the resources.
Can Pavel weaken the Rockpool Hunter alongside Pint-Sized Potion and get rid of it? It doesn't look like he can to me unless he wanted to Dragonfire Potion his own board.
What is Elun's will?
Just not sure he has much to worry about in this spot. That is a bit odd.
Yeah, he only utilized 1 of his 10 mana on that turn. I guess his potion is not really board-centric. It would have summoned an 8/8. It would have let Orange trade over the minions. Gentle Megasaur could have punished him pretty heavily there. Maybe he's just trying to stifle as much resources as he can. Also, at the moment, his Dragonfire potion is stranded. I think he understands that he doesn't really have to play to the board very much right now because most board states he'll just be able to remove with Dragonfire potion.
Yeah, I mean, that is one of the big benefits to Pavel playing the control option here, is that if he simply exhausts all the resources from Orange, there's almost no way he loses that game.
Yeah.
And so the longer it goes, the more it benefits Pavel in that situation. Why expend big tools if you don't need to?
Yeah.
And I think that's what Pavel's thinking.
And it works out very well for him in this situation. He's arguably in a better position than he would have been had he used the Kazakus potion that turn, because now he can play an 8/8 on an empty board and get 3 demons.
This is just total domination in this game.
Now let's see what he gets. What's in the box? Double Prince Malchezaar. It's not a bad turn 10 play. Double 5/6.
You asked me what the most overpowered legendary you could play 2 of them was.
Prince Malchezaar. Just put 10 legendaries in your deck at the beginning of the game.
Oh, no, I don't want that effect. I just want the...
Oh, just a 5/6 body.
I
Just
just
a pit
want-
fighter.
Yeah, I just want the pit fighters.
You can already play 2 pit fighters in your deck.
They're not legendary.
True.
And this is just showing off at this point.
Yeah. This is almost
Above
100%
30
in the
health.
bag.
Minions that are healthier than they normally are. A generating engine on board. And Orange no longer has his top end. No Tyrion left. No way to draw cards.
Well,
Throws out the well played.
The battle is
Pavel turns it around. Down 2 games, takes the set 3 games to 2, and is the only undefeated player left in the tournament, 7-0.
First seed coming out of the Swiss rounds, and that moves Pavel's overall HCT record for 2017 to 17-3. He is 17-3 in matches during HCT throughout this year. That is insane. An 85% win rate and a 70% win rate in game score throughout this event.
And no one's even close to that.
No one's close.
That is absolutely ridiculous of a performance. And this is off the back of winning World Championships last year. He has not slowed down.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. You know, Firebat, after he won the World Championship, he came back and he actually had a